Hello and welcome to DWTV's German film magazine Kino. When summer comes to Berlin, the movies move outdoors to open-air theaters like this one in Berlin, Friedrichshain. So let's take a look at what's coming up.
Rebels and folk heroes, the search for home at the Munich Film Festival. War and curried sausage, Barbara Sukowa as a passionate lover. Light and shadow, cinematographer Tom Fairman explains his images.
The Munich Film Festival is known for its open-air screenings. The summer sun, film stars and Bavarian hospitality make Munich a favorite for audiences and the German industry. We made the trip to bring you the best of this year's fest.
237 films from 41 countries in 8 days, and almost all of them screened for the first time in Germany. This year's Munich Film Festival boasted a new, improved trailer and a more daring program. Most of the celebrities at the opening night gala were homegrown, but the films came from all over the world. One highlight was a French film by director Laurent Cantet that won the Golden Palme at Cannes. Festival director Andreas Ströll chose the film in a bid to broaden the festival's horizons.
Marginal elements in our society are becoming increasingly visible in cinema, especially in more challenging films. It's an ongoing trend that we want to reflect.
Entre les Murs, called The Class in English, is a documentary drama about life in a multi-ethnic inner-city Parisian school. One dedicated teacher tries to instill tolerance and respect in his teenage pupils, many of whom come from underprivileged backgrounds.
I'm very happy that the film, which has been made in a very small area, it's a classroom in the 20th arrondissement of Paris, can open a window on what we live.
But there was nothing underprivileged about the Munich Festival, which ended a week of movie watching with an impressive gala celebration.
Bavarian filmmakers always have a strong presence at the Munich Film Fest. But Bavarian films are booming across Germany. Even though the local dialect can be so strong, some Germans need subtitles to understand them. Director Markus Rosenmüller set off the Bavarian boom 3 years ago with his surprise success Grave Decisions. We met with 3 Bavarian filmmakers who look for ideas in their own backyard.
Bayern has managed to legalize collective statewide intoxication. I don't make films anymore. Why? Because I've made enough of them. For me, home is a place where you're not an outsider. I don't need to prove myself or explain myself. Everything's just understood.
The Bavarian experience is central to the films of director Markus Rosenmüller. We caught up with the young director at the Munich Film Festival, where he was presenting his latest work. It's the tale of Robber Kneißl, a rebellious thief who lived at the end of the 19th century. On the surface, it's the story of a bandit running from the law, but the film also deals with marginalization and exclusion.
Servus. Was machst du da? Arbeiten, Mager. Eingestellt habe ich.
Was schaust du denn so?
Ich mag keine Zuchthäusler.
Ich hab schon gemeint, du magst keine Wilderer. Oder Feigling, die abhauen, wenn es um irgendwas geht.
Wildern ist nicht stehen. Zuchthäusler bleibt Zuchthäusler.
Es ist halt bei uns der letzte Räuber gewesen in Bayern.
He was Bavaria's last bandit. So, it's the same regional background, the same home and dialect. If a Bavarian is somewhere where his existence is threatened and is put under pressure, he will become a rebel.
Jetzt schaust du aber fesch aus.
Hey, mach den fein keine Augen, gell? Ein Zuchthäusler ist kein Schwiegersohn, weißt du?
In his film, Rosenmüller has used Bavarian dialect and plenty of local colour. The robber Kneissl is an intriguing outsider who wants to escape from the prejudices and unbending rules of the villagers.
Working-class women at the turn of the century didn't have much to laugh about. And then this young guy comes along, tosses her up on his bike, and says, "I'm a cowboy." Who wouldn't go weak? Wer wird denn nicht schwach?
Rosenmüller has used a gentle touch to combine emotional moments with powerful images.
Schreiber. Und du?
The Munich Film Festival also offers film buffs a retrospective of the complete works of Munich filmmaker, author and painter Herbert Achternbusch. He's distanced himself from the film world in recent years, but he's on hand at the festival to present his impressive body of work.
Du vergisst meine Dornenkrone.
In the 1980s, Achternbusch challenged the Catholic Church with his controversial film The Ghost. His portrayal of Jesus caused a nationwide scandal and provoked accusations of blasphemy. His funding was withdrawn and the film was banned. The enfant terrible of Bavarian cinema is glad to see his work recognized, but he becomes agitated when it's classified as Heimat film, a popular type of rural melodrama.
You don't like it when people say your films are Heimat films. Why not?
They aren't Heimat films. There's Buddhism in them. No one is sing-song rhyming. Love isn't followed by dove in mine. The films are drawn from the language itself.
Sie kommen aus der Sprache raus, die Filme.
In Bayern mag ich nicht einmal gestorben sein.
Achternbusch's films are difficult to label. When they were released, they were radical and provocative. Now they seem bizarre and comical. He maintains his distance from the new generation of Bavarian directors.
I made something completely different from these new filmmakers. They just film the new covers for the toilet lids.
Director Hans Steinbichler lives and works in Bavaria. We met up with him in Munich's famous Hofbräukeller beer garden. He doesn't drink beer himself, but he considers the beer garden sacred ground.
The beer garden is like home. In the beer garden you find rich and poor together. Nobody gets labeled. Those who don't have money bring food along. Those who have money order, and everyone sits together. That's why it's like home.
Steinbichler's newest film examines the feeling of homeland one carries within oneself. Erwin is in his late 30s and still lives with his mother. Together they operate a gas station in the countryside. His life, once limited to his fish tank and his relationship with his mother, changes with the arrival of Irina, a Romanian woman Erwin finds through a dating agency.
In The Second Wife, it was important to me not to define homeland as something purely regional, but rather something that lies within people, and therefore in the relationships between people.
Das sind Klöße.
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 Knödel. Klöße.
That's something really German, dumplings with meat. It was important to me to draw the scene out so that one understands where the woman has arrived. It's not about touch, it's really about the food.
Irina brings chaos into the order of the house, symbolically destroying the old to make way for the new. The discovery of love can also create a sense of home. Hans Steinbichler, Herbert Achternbusch and Rosenmüller, 3 directors and their different visions of their Bavarian homeland.
The Currywurst or curried sausage is as much a part of Berlin as lederhosen are of Munich. Uwe Timm's novel, The Invention of Curried Sausage, about the origins of this delicacy, has just been adapted for the screen. It stars Barbara Sukowa, an actress internationally known for her work with legendary German director Rainer Werner Fassbinder. And it is our film of the month.
Barbara Sukowa arrives at the premiere of her new film in Munich.
Einmal Curry, die Damen.
Lena is a woman in her mid-40s. We meet her shortly before the end of the Second World War. Her husband and son are fighting on the front while she runs a food kiosk, struggling to scrape an existence.
Nichts zu beißen? Bierservietten für die nächsten 1000 Jahre.
Ja, ich denke, das ist eine Frau, die
I think she's a very typical woman for those times. It was a time of war. Women were running the economy and daily life in Germany. She's a woman who doesn't let it get her down. She takes things into her own hands. Even when things go wrong, she's an independent woman, a self-confident woman.
Eine selbstständige Frau und eine selbstbewusste Frau.
There's no room for excitement in Lena's private life, until a chance encounter in front of the cinema with the young sailor Hermann Bremer.
Oh. Macht nix, danke.
Sind Sie...
Ja?
Ich glaube, Sie öfter hier sind.
Das ist der einzige Lichtblick. Wenn das Licht nicht wieder ausfällt.
Es war einfach eine
It was just an extreme time, and in extreme times, extreme and unusual things happen.
Ungewöhnliche Dinge.
Lena and Hermann escape the war by jumping into a passionate love affair.
Das war ja eine Geschichte, die wahrscheinlich...
It was a story which probably happened a little secretly. Nothing was said about it. That was my mother's generation. These mothers, of course, didn't tell us everything that happened back then.
Was da alles so passiert ist.
Bist du eigentlich verheiratet?
Nein.
Bist ja auch noch jung, ne?
Diese ungewöhnliche Liebesgeschichte zwischen...
It's an unusual love story between a young man and an older woman in such difficult times.
Diese Form des sich...
They make life beautiful, even when there's a terrible storm and everything's horrible outside.
Donnert und draußen sehr unwirtliche Zeiten anbrechen.
That's really a thrilling challenge for an actor.
Ganz spannende Herausforderung als Schauspieler.
The sailor doesn't take part in the violence at the end of the war, drawing closer to Lena instead. They continue their affair hidden away from the fighting outside their window. Sometimes, Lena seems girlish and full of youth. At other times, she seems old and weary.
Das wollte ich auch unbedingt.
That's something I definitely wanted in the film. Moments when she is young and looks young, and moments where you can see that she has lived her life, that she has experience and she's older. I think the spectrum is good, and I didn't want to leave it out.
Finde ich gut und die möchte ich auch nicht auslöschen.
The war ends. For Lena, this marks the beginning of the end of her time with Hermann. She knows that she will have to say goodbye to her lover. But she postpones this by not telling him the war is ended. But her lie is eventually discovered. Lena takes her fate into her own hands. And once again, an accident opens the door to a new phase of life. Lena inadvertently invents curried sausage and her business takes off. A different sort of happy end.
The Bernhard Wicki Prize is awarded in Munich for a film that focuses on humanity and tolerance. We've got the winner for you and a lot more in our shortcuts.
The Bernhard Wicki Peace Prize of German cinema was awarded to 2 Munich filmmakers. Their film examines the life of a resistance fighter in the Spanish Civil War. In 1937, bombs were raining down on Madrid.
Ich erinnere mich jeden Tag mehr und mehr an den Krieg. Aber Angst gehabt zu haben, daran kann ich mich nicht erinnern.
When the fascists come to power under Franco, Justo the anarchist bids farewell to his family and goes underground. After the Civil War, millions of Spanish people had to flee or were taken to work camps. Many were never seen again. The film is a German-Spanish-French co-production. Here, the directors are on location with Spanish film stars Juan Diego Botto and Maria Valverde. Only after decades of forced separation does the family come back together again. An anti-war film which keeps us from forgetting the past. The prize is a well-earned honor for these 2 filmmakers.
Mila, Hani and Kati are 3 friends who stick together through thick and thin.
Ich bin überhaupt nicht verliebt.
The girls help each other survive the daily chaos of school life.
Sag mal, sieht man, dass ich geheult habe? Geht.
Ohne Sprache gäbe es keinen Nobelpreisträger. Ja, meine Damen und Herren, erklärt mal Physik, Chemie, Biologie. Ja, selbst Mathematik ohne Sprache. Nichts funktioniert ohne Sprache. Die Welt ist Sprache.
Im Sport, da müsst ihr den Kopf leer haben.
Musik ist das Leben.
Biologie.
Sprache.
Musik. Sport.
Die ganze Welt ist Mathematik. Der goldene Schnitt, die Zahl Phi.
Freche Mädchen, or Cheeky Girls, is based on a successful series of novels about teenagers.
Hallo?
Sieht man was durch das Kleid durch?
Kaum, so gut wie gar nicht.
Gut.
Die Bühne bitte. Viel Glück.
Du hast einen Freund?
It's about friendship between girls and its biggest competitor, first love.
Heißt es Pick Winter? Bleib aber bis Sommer hier. Nee, Spaß beiseite. Ich bin Referendar und ich vertrete Frau Kempinski in Deutsch. Und außerdem unterrichte ich Biologie.
Irgendwie vermehren die sich bei dir nicht gut.
Du gehst vielleicht einfach ein bisschen schlampig mit ihnen um.
Meine Fliegen sind auch vielleicht nicht so sexbesessen wie deine.
Na, so kannst du aber nicht raus, dann holst du dir sofort eine Erkältung.
Ja.
Ich habe noch eine Jacke dabei.
Wie kann er so alt sein und dabei so jung aussehen? Schreibst du hier meistens das? Ich habe Schule geschwänzt und war mit Hanna bei dem Casting. Okay.
Freche Mädchen is a clever mix of teenage romance and humor that never ceases to be entertaining.
If you're suffering from soccer withdrawal after the end of the European Championship, we've got the cure. We're giving away this amazing DVD box set of 11 documentaries and feature films on the beautiful game. They include a Brazilian documentary about the dream of becoming a soccer star. And an award-winning Dutch documentary on a match between the world's 2 worst soccer teams, the Kingdom of Bhutan and the island of Montserrat. We're also giving away 3 copies of Uwe Timm's novel, The Invention of Currywurst sausage. For a chance to win, just write to us and tell us what you think of our show. Here's our address. DWTV, Wolterstraße 6, 13355 Berlin. Email kino@dw-world.de. Being a cinematographer involves a lot more than working a camera. The cameraman designs the lighting and frames the shots. He finds the pictures to tell the story. This year's German Camera Prize for Best Feature Film went to cinematographer Tom Fährmann. Kino reporter Oliver Glasenapp met Fährmann for a close-up look at his work.
Tom Fährmann is one of Germany's most versatile cameramen. He told us how he came up with the impressive cinematography for the film Uljan. The film tells the story of Frenchman Charles Simon, who heads to Asia to die. On his travels, his plans are thwarted by a young girl called Ujan. On several occasions, she saves his life.
The film Uljan was shot in Kazakhstan. Did that present you with any particular difficulties?
Actually, the entire shoot consisted of solving various problems. Due to organizational hitches, the camera was often my only piece of equipment. That's why the whole film is so driven by the photography. I had to make the best use of the available light. It wasn't planned like that.
So you used whatever daylight was there. You had no access to artificial light sources.
For example, there's a church that's carved into the rock. It has a small door through which the sun shines between 4 and 6 o'clock. The location is so inaccessible that you can't take much equipment there. So we decided to shoot twice for 2 hours each time, making use of the natural light in the church during those times. Getting there and back involved a 3.5-hour drive on a dirt track.
The film is full of stunning images that reflect the main character's state of mind. How do you find such perfect locations in such a big country?
Yes, there are a lot of images like that. I hadn't seen a lot of those motifs before. That's always one of my most important goals, to find pictures that portray the character's inner feelings. And I love doing that. For example, the character is under a great deal of pressure. Instead of the endless blue sky we could have had, you see him caged in by steel. We planned and designed that effect.
I brought a little surprise for you.
Tom Fairman is a big skeptic, and internally he's often quite agitated. But he emanates an aura of calm to the outside world. He feels responsible for his team like a father would. He never panics on the set. It's a great quality because he's also very stubborn. When a concept has been planned, he'll make sure he pulls it off, no matter how adverse the conditions. He finds a way to control the natural environment.
Directly after the shoot, we were at the wrap party. Emotions were running high, and Volker Schlundorf told me he'd rather have shot the second half of the film with a handheld camera. He accused me of thwarting his plans with my obstinacy and perfectionism. Later, when the film had its premiere at the Munich Film Festival, the subject came up again. That time, he said he was really glad that I'd stuck to my guns. He said the film had a clear, formal language that it otherwise wouldn't have had. Then he came up to me, hugged me, and said, "Thank you, thank you."
Fairman and director Sönke Wortmann have worked together many times. They're currently involved in pre-production for the film adaptation of the popular historical novel Pope Joan.
We can have a brief shot of this and then pan over the whole fraternity while slowly tracking diagonally backwards.
Our history together means we each know how the other one ticks. When we plan the shots, we tell each other the story. I'll say something like, "Then he goes up there," and Fairman knows exactly what I mean, and he can take up the thread. We tell it as if we're seeing it on an imaginary screen and write it down. Then we just have to shoot it. That's the easy part.
Wortmann and Fairman's last co-project was The Miracle of Bern, a film about the first time Germany won the World Cup football championships.
The Miracle of Bern, about the 1954 World Cup. You reconstruct a historic football match using modern images and taking into account modern viewing preferences. How'd you manage that?
We spent a long time thinking about the best way to shoot the match. Zunke said the only thing he cared about was having players who could really play football. I thought about how to do it for a long time. I asked myself how I could film people running around 70 meters away from my 35mm camera and keep them in focus.
Wie kann das gehen? Und meine Intention war gar nicht so viel.
I didn't want to shoot from the high position that you typically come across. I wanted to shoot at the player's eye level. I can't play football and it doesn't really interest me that much either. I guess I conceive the whole thing more like a battle than a football game.
For his work on The Miracle of Bern, Fährmann was nominated for the German Camera Prize. Now, with Uljan, he's finally clinched the award. Fährmann and Wortmann are due to start shooting Probe Joan in August.
That's all for today's show. We're off to enjoy the rest of a beautiful Berlin summer evening, and we wish you a great time at the movies. See you next time. Bye-bye.